Hello everyone, we are ready for chapter 41 of The Treasure Hunter's Tale. Just so you know, the reason I haven't done very many sort of my normal videos is because reading a whole chapter takes a lot of energy out of me, and so I don't have very much. So as you've just seen, I thought, oh, if I do a video beforehand, then I'll be completely knackered for when I read, which is what's happened, which you probably see in my face. But anyway, we'll just do it anyway. But, you know, obviously I do still have lots of tips and things for living with chronic illness, endometriosis. Endometriosis is not fun. But I've got a couple of videos in the pipelines, which sort of shares other things that will be helpful. Yeah. Can't remember why I told you that now. Yeah, just in case some of you were like, there's no, it's just a book. Anyway, chapter 41. Freddie's eyes filled with tears, for it was the first time he had seen his uncle speak out with real conviction since Mr. Discover the Truth's funeral. The crowd, who had also noticed the change in poor Mr. Saved by Grace, turned to see him standing tall. My friends, Freddie is right. Those wicked men are here to deceive you and want to take you off the King's Road and onto another path that will leave you alone and weary and burdened until the day you die. What Freddie has done was truly brave and for your good, for those men pretended to be sheep belonging to the Good Shepherd, but really they are wolves in sheep's clothing, seeking to devour any faith you ever had. The crowd gasped, and Freddie remembered the warning the officer had given him all those years ago. What shall we do? Cried the crowd. How shall we protect ourselves? Well, first, said Mr. Saved by Grace thoughtfully, we should thank the king for sending Freddie to stop their mouths. And secondly, we shall gather all willing young men together and run these brigands out of town. The crowd cheered. Everyone sent messages of thanks and apology to the king for even considering an easier way. When the crowd dispersed, Mr. Saved by Grace came up to Freddie, who was still breathing heavily. Well fought, brother, he said, smiling broadly and putting his hand on Freddie's shoulder. Well fought. They walked back to the house together, discussing what should be done. For I wager these men will seek other ears to listen to their wicked plans, said Freddie. Surely we should warn nearby towns and spread the word. Mr. Saved by Grace looked stern. You never spoke a truer word, Freddie, and I think I would like to do that, as ears to hear and I go through the lands hunting treasure again. It did Freddie's heart good to hear his uncle speak with purpose and resolve once more, and that night he thanked the king for many things. The next day there was a knock at the door, and Freddie opened it to find a little band of people from the church. Hello, Freddie, said the smith. We heard about your fight yesterday and about your bravery and valour, and we wanted to say thank you. He held out a brown envelope. We hope this helps you with buying the daily bread, he said, smiling over Freddie's shoulder at Mr. Newhart. How did you... Freddie started saying, but then saw the direction of the smith's smile. Ah, I see my father has been talking, said Freddie, taking the envelope and opening it. Inside was a cheque for a substantial amount of money. Thank you, breathed Freddie. Thank you all so much. He looked at his friends in disbelief. This is very, very kind of you. Thank you, he said again. The little group chuckled. No, thank you for standing up for what we believe in, said the smith, shaking Freddie by the hand. I wish I had been there to see it, but word got around pretty quickly. Mr. Newhart invited them all in, and everyone sat around the table discussing the events of the past month and also the plans for the shop. I've been thinking, said his grandmother, maybe the church offering could make up the rest of the money, she said. After all, it is going to be for the king, and so money well spent, she said, firmly putting down her cup of tea. The group around the table smiled. Good plan, mother dear, said Mr. Newhart. And we can continue to support it once it's running too, so you can buy in stock and things you need to keep it going, agreed the smith, and the rest of the group nodded. Now, about those villains, said the smith, cracking his knuckles. What's the plan about them, Pastor? Mr. Newhart laughed. To make sure their message doesn't have any effect, ideally, he said, but not with violence, but with spreading the real good news, better and stronger and further. The day was spent in prayer and discussion, as though the next week a notice was sent to all the known faithful men and older boys of the town, calling all to arms. And so it was that a very faithful band of men ran the two wolves out of town with their tails between their legs, and pursued them so they would not dare enter any town or village within the vicinity of their town. They returned from the original charge with full plans in readiness to send out men ready and willing to take the good news of the king into the areas to fortify the people, so that even if they were to hear the wicked men's words, they would not give them any real attention. And so it was that word grew of the king as far as the shore and deep inland too. Of course there was opposition, but the faithful band grew stronger with every triumph. Now, once again, we must move on apace, for otherwise this book will become too cumbersome for a child's hand to hold. We will come back into the story a few years on from where we left it. Freddie is now 20 years old, and Daily Bread, his little shop, has become a hub of activity over the years. He now has a shop helper in Hope, who loves putting price stickers on all the books, and Ian, who is only 7, likes to dust the shelves on Saturdays when he and Mrs. Beloved of the King come and help with new stock intake. The little church building is starting to feel a little snug with all the new members, and the church may need to find a new building that has a larger capacity. Darling Miss Poor in spirit went to be with the Lord, which is another nice way of saying she died. She lived to a good age and was a great blessing to the family even to her last days. Mr. Saved by Grace and Ears to Hear are still off hunting together for treasure, but Mr. Saved by Grace is praying for a new, younger man to join them, for he feels his age and is starting to think he may need a less physically active role in his journey on the King's Road. Mr. Setfree and Shorehope have trained Johnny well in dragon hunting, and the faithful band continue to slay many of the fiery beasts, even targeting the nests so the horrid things never even hatch. The smith and his wife stayed in the town to support the work there and have made great inroads with the traders of the town, and Jim now holds regular Bible studies at their house for the workers who can't make it to Sunday service because of necessary commitments. Now, who else might you like to know about? Ah, yes, Taste and See That the King is Good, the farmer's son, if you recall, was one of the young men along with Serve the Lord that went out into the neighbouring towns to warn them of the wicked men and their message by teaching the townspeople of the true way, and they have had the privilege of seeing several people start on the King's Road under their faithful guidance. So now we know where everyone is, let us swoop back into our tale. That's the next chapter.